Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. I'm Sean from Somm Wine Club, and what I'm going to be tasting today is the 2022 Valdespino Viña Macharnudo Alto Barrel-Fermented Palomino. This is a dry white wine from Andalucía, and specifically from and around the town of Jerez de la Frontera in the southwest of Spain. So, Valdespino is a sherry bodega. One of the oldest sherry bodegas. In fact, there's history with the property and the family going back to 1264. Alfonso Valdespino was reportedly one of the knights that helped liberate the town of Jerez from the Moors in the 13th century. And in doing so, he was given a plot of land from King Alfonso of Spain, and that's where Valdespino started. They started producing sherry commercially in the 1400s, 1430, I think it was. And then the actual bodega, the official start of business as Valdespino is known today, was in 1875. That being said, that still makes them one of the oldest sherry bodegas. They were purchased by a larger company in 1999 called Grupo Estevez. My businessman Jose Estevez, as the family was really not as interested in continuing their work in the sherry trade. But Grupo Estevez has not changed so much what Valdespino is or what they've done. All they did was infuse some capital and allow them to modernize while still retaining their very, very traditional way of doing things. They're the only sherry bodega that still ferments their sherries in oak. Most of them do them in tank, and then they are inoculated with the yeast and then put into barrel to become a Fino sherry or a Manzanilla sherry or a Oloroso sherry, so on. They're also one of the only sherry bodegas to own their own land. Most of them buy fruit from contract growers, but Valdespino has 186 acres, I believe it was. It's either acres or hectares. I can't remember. Sorry. And then they also control a couple hundred more as well. Also a very unique thing. Some of that land is in an area called Pago Macharnudo. And the highest point of Macharnudo is Alto Macharnudo. That is where the wine for the grapes for this Valdespino barrel fermented Palomino are coming from. Palomino is the kind of iconic white grape of sherry of Andalucía. It is the grape that makes Fino sherry, and it's grown on these really chalky white soils called Albarita. And this area, this Pago Macharnudo, is considered like some of the best, the Grand Cru of Jerez. Some of the best terroir, some of the best land. Not only is it pure Albarita soil, it's also some of the highest point in Jerez. It's almost 140 meters above sea level, which when you're down near the coast, that makes a huge difference being up a little bit higher where they're exposed to the poniente wind. So this is not a sherry though. I know I've been talking a lot about sherry, but this is actually a dry, unfortified expression of Palomino. So they've taken the Palomino grapes, harvested at night, put them into a press to get just the best part of the must with a very light press, and then into used Fino sherry casks for fermentation. So that being in the sherry cask, it absorbs a little bit of the Fino sherry character, and it still retains the freshness of Palomino as a grape variety, but it's not fortified, and it doesn't have as much of the biological aging characteristics from being under that layer of floor yeast that traditional Fino sherry is known to do. So, whew, that was a mouthful. That being said, this is a really, really interesting expression and I think a really great intro to the region of Jerez and the Sherry Triangle, and understanding the complexity in these wines, the grape varieties, the terroir and the region, and the history of the producers, without diving headfirst into a sherry, which, even though I think sherries are delicious, not everybody agrees with me. It's not exactly the most common beverage. That, along with like port and Madeira and other fortified wines, people don't drink them as much anymore. But if you're curious, this might be a good wine to try out to experience just a hint, like a whisper of what sherry can be. So let's smell. It does have a little bit of a sherry-esque nose. This green apple skin, blanched almond, slightly saline, like sea spray, kind of citrusy, citrus oil, lemon oil, lime oil. And yeah, this kind of like white, nutty, characteristic almond or Marcona almond, which I really like in sherry, especially in Fino sherry, because it works so well with kind of briny, salty, oily tapas and pintos and like little bites of something that you want to snack on. That's what sherry is great for. This can do the same thing just without actually being sherry. The barrels that they're using for fermentation are all old barrels. They're not new barrels, so there's not going to be any new oak here. I know when people see Barrel-Fermented on the big text on the front of the bottle, they're thinking, oh, it's got lots of new oak, it's going to smell like oak, I don't like oak. This is not, no, that's not what this is. Trust me. That's spectacular. You're really gonna like this. So it spends some additional time on the lees. After fermentation, they keep it in the sherry casks on the lees until January, and then it's racked off the lees, and then they leave it in the casks until July when it's bottled. So it has a lot of time to soak up that characteristic kind of influence from the casks, and really, really giving you the kind of brightness, citrusy, tangy, tart green apple and underripe pear of Palomino, the chalkiness and the kind of zesty limestone character of the Albariza soil, and then that almond, briny, salty note coming from the barrels, coming from the sherry casks. So there's a lot going on here, and if you smell it and the first smell that you have is kind of like, oh, I'm not sure about this, just taste it. Trust me, there is a load of complexity on the palate. The texture is so fascinating and refreshing without being light. This wine is tangy and tart and refreshing, but it's definitely not light. It has almost an oily texture to it. It's got some body and some roundness. And again, that's going to make it a spectacular food wine as well, to stand up to dishes or bits and bites that have a little bit of oiliness, a little bit of fat, anchovies or sardines, or cheese, a big chunk of manchego, or olives or almonds, or just snacky food. So if you're craving a white wine and you just happen to have put together a delicious charcuterie board, this is a great wine for that. Or you can actually make a meal if you have something that has some olives and briny capers. Think anything Mediterranean, anything that's got those kind of Mediterranean herbs and oily fish or fatty olives in there. Great finish, great texture. Yeah, and a super unique wine with a great story to tell, and delicious at the exact same time. So, triple whammy. I hope you will enjoy the Valdespino Palomino. Let me know what you do for food. I want to know, because you might inspire me to do something unique and interesting with my pairing. So, thank you again. I appreciate it. Enjoy, and we will see you guys all next time.